Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and today on Partner Talks, I have Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld. Jason, say hello and tell everybody about MSDynamicsWorld.
Hey, Rick, thanks so much for having me back. Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at MSDynamicsWorld.com. I have been covering the Microsoft Business Applications channel for about 15 years now, going back to the Dynamics on-prem days, and now here we are in a very much a cloud world, but not a fully cloud world, as I think we'll talk about.
So, Jason, this is our first show for 2024, and I think it's going to be an exciting year in this Microsoft world. So, I noticed on the site that you just published an article on 2023 in review. So, I thought that would be a great subject to talk about today. So, where do you want to start with 2023?
Yeah, when I look back at our news coverage from 2023, I looked at what had been the most popular, but I also looked at what I thought was probably the most meaningful. And I started with Microsoft's, I guess, reveal, you would call it, that the Dynamics product line has passed $5 billion in revenue as of sometime in 2023. And we really know that from Microsoft's earnings call. So that's really where, any company is really the most honest with the world about its performance. And yeah, in one of the earnings calls back in July, they revealed that all up, Dynamics is now a $5 billion plus product line with each of the major product areas, the major applications within the product line, each doing over $1 billion in revenue. And that was, I don't think that number is actually a huge surprise to anyone. 5 billion all up probably sounds about right for anyone who's been following this space. But to hear them put that into the earnings call and to now, see Dynamics and Power Platform mentioned regularly as part of performance on a quarter by quarter basis is certainly a meaningful, evolution of where this part of Microsoft's business is at.
I think it's a great announcement. At one time they kind of told us the growth of Dynamics and they got away from it. Now they're back to it, and I'm really grateful they are because I think that helps with MS Dynamics World's business, and it helps my business as an MVP to let people know that this is a growing concern and that it's a significant part of what we'll call the ERP and CRM marketplace.
Yeah, I guess the one critique I've heard is, and it's one that I can sort of understand, is that by making Dynamics sort of a material part of the earnings every quarter and part of the company's performance, it also sort of constrains Microsoft about what they can say about the products, what they can say about the size of the user bases, some of those finer grain details that would be helpful to when you're trying to sell ERP and say how big the customer base is, for example. That's something Microsoft will not reveal anymore. So we will really never again know how many customers are using CRM, how many customers are using Business Central all up. I mean, that's probably the kind of information that is now gone. And they're going to just stick to revenue numbers. Maybe they'll surprise us, but at this point, it doesn't look like that. And that's used to be something that we would hear all the time. I mean, there was a point when they just gave us a number for each product, 60,000 here, 100,000 there, 20,000 here. Those times are gone. So I think it's just a sign of where Microsoft's at with its products and how it needs to represent them in the context of its broader sort of corporate reporting.
So let's talk about the amount of announcements that were made around AI and Copilot.
Yeah, in my piece, I think I used as a headline a March article we did about Copilot AI extending it to Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. But really, I mean, our coverage and everyone saw throughout the year that Copilot from Microsoft really started to infiltrate or make its way into all aspects of the commercial cloud at Microsoft, from Azure to Teams to Microsoft 365 to Power Platform Dynamics products. It's really everywhere now. And we can get into this a little bit later, but that's what Microsoft's sort of leading with in every every communication channel they have, whether it's earnings, whether it's their big conferences that they have. I mean, they lead with AI and they lead with Copilot, and every product manager has that in their presentations now. So it's really, you can't get away from it if you're paying attention to what Microsoft's up to in the commercial space these days. And it really did extend everywhere, from Dynamics 365 sort of CE focused products into the ERPs too, which I think are a really interesting sort of push, because that's, to me anyway, a less obvious place, but Microsoft's going to be continuing, and I know we'll talk about this, Microsoft's going to continue to work to find those really useful, like high value, must have kind of ways to put generative AI, especially, as well as some analytical things, into the products, and get customers really using them and dependent on them as part of their business processes.
So, Jason, do we think the customers are ready for these AI tools yet? Or are
Well,
they
that's one
just
of the
kind
big
of getting
questions.
their foot up on the first rung of the ladder?
Yeah, that's one of the big questions for 2024. If I was going to make a prediction, I mean, it's that pursuit of the best use cases, the best applications of the technology. Microsoft has now put, multiple ideas out there into every Dynamics product, into Power Platform. And, no one really knows what's going to stick. So is it going to be some of the, generative capabilities for writing Power App flows? Is it going to be for building Power Apps by sort of describing them with natural language? Is it going to be, the marketer's ability to sort of punch up their campaign text? Is it going to be collections clerks, like, right, sending out past due notices to, is it going to be in the supply chain communications? Is it going to be doing queries of different types? There's so many areas where they will be trying to push forward with Copilot based solutions. Could it be the sort of the non-product specific things like Copilot for sales, Copilot for service, which is sort of the evolution of some of those Viva efforts from a year back? So, and which ones? I think it'll be pretty clear which ones really are winners and which ones get discarded, because I think some of them will be discarded pretty quickly if they fail to really get traction.
And as a CRM MVP, it's been my sort of life's work getting everybody to put their data into the CRM system. And I think the one thing about AI is companies are going to get serious about the data, the quality of the data, the models of the data that we use, and how much data we're collecting. Because without data, the AI tools don't work quite as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought when I first saw Viva Sales, that was really one of the the really promising things about it, was this idea that, like, it's the newest and best way to get that data into CRM, essentially through any interface that a sales representative might work in, whether it's email, whether it's Teams, maybe a custom Power App or something, like wherever they are. The idea was, to me anyway, that data will be either surfaced to them, or the data that they are generating will get captured and stored, even if they're not being really disciplined about it. So, can they carry that forward with Copilot? We'll have to see. And it raises other questions, when it comes to, like, how much data is it really capturing? Is what's being recorded, and especially in larger enterprises where they have to be very sensitive about that in terms of external data they're capturing, and internal teams, and what do executives really want picked up from their meetings and their calls, and what they say, what they maybe chat about, and how long that kind of information is held. All those questions still really need to be worked out on a company by company basis
And
too,
does the
in
customer want to
2024.
be recorded every time they're
Yeah.
talking to your sales team? Well, that's always the question. But I'm sure we're going to see this keep changing, and that kind of drops into this whole ideas of customer journeys and dynamics. Marketing has been moved over to customer insights. So, what can we say about that?
Yeah, I think of all the product level news, that was one of the more interesting ones, just that it shows that, these Dynamics products, they're going to continue to evolve. So marketing sort of had been on its own. but it was kind of hewing very closely to customer insights and when it came to engaging and trying to build relationships with customers. And now it's essentially become one product, whereas it was essentially two that you could buy separately before. Now it's one. Customer insights data versus journeys. I felt like that announcement kind of flew under the radar, but it's a big part of the sort of customer experience story overall for Dynamics. So I think it's certainly worth noting. And I think there's a lot of interesting work going into that area that sort of goes between the AI side and the sort of CRM, the classic CRM. So I did want to mention that. Yeah.
And the other announcement I thought that was sort of key that you had in your article was all the announcements around Fabric, as we're starting to see it really take hold into the marketplace.
Yeah, so I mean, probably not. This is a big topic for that really covers a lot of not just biz apps, but kind of the broader Microsoft broader cloud story. But I think we'll see a lot more about Fabric in 2024. It just reached GA near the end of 2023, and it certainly is going to play a more important part, I think, in data strategy for Dynamics customers as a sort of an interesting new approach to data warehousing and reporting and using Power BI. But I think Microsoft has much bigger goals for it in the broader marketplace for Azure customers and just as a play in the sort of larger, BI reporting, data warehousing, data analytics space as a more user-friendly, less demanding, more flexibly priced service. So I'm really interested to see where that goes and what Microsoft says about its progress. I think they said when it went to GA, 20,000 customers had already used it to some degree in preview. So yeah, it's really something to keep our eye on.
I think it's important too because, they want to get rid of these, in the cloud, we want everything to be integrated, right? And, one application, and I think Fabric has that ability to be able to do that, to see across not only Dynamics but Modern Workplace, because I think we're going to see more and more integration or commonality, we'll call it, between these applications. As I'm starting to use all my applications through Teams, right? And I think more organizations are doing that. So how do we bring in ERP and Dynamics, CRM, and all these other products into my team's environment? And they're doing a pretty good job now, and I think it's just the start of something that's going to be very, very powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look back, if I think backwards into way into the past, one of the critiques of dynamic solutions way back when was, they have all this data, they're key operational systems, but Microsoft doesn't have a real sort of BI reporting data management story to go along with it. Every customer was kind of on their own. And I think you could argue that the Fabric story, while maybe it wasn't crafted specifically for biz apps, it really could become that sort of default best practices kind of story that Microsoft pushes in terms of what you should be doing with your data, making the most use of it across your enterprise, not just the users of the Dynamics ERP or CRM system, for example. That this is the answer, that the prescriptive answer that they want everyone to be embracing.
And also in 2023, we should talk about the Power Platform because that really, got a lot of news. I think, it was right behind AI and what Microsoft wanted to talk about, especially earlier in the year. So, what do we see any big news on the Power Platform, Power App side of things?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Power Platform continued to really expand its reach. It was certainly a big element of the Copilot story because Microsoft sort of sees generative AI playing a role in how people develop Power Apps, how they develop automation. And then I think we also saw that really from the Dynamics perspective, more and more of that thinking, especially on the ERP side, I would say, is going to look to Power Apps and Power Platform to play a more significant role. And that's something I actually hope to cover more in 2024 too. Yeah, so certainly Power Platform is growing, and the story is getting more intertwined with Dynamics, even as even as the product sort of plays multiple role, the platform plays multiple roles in Microsoft's commercial space. It's not just about Dynamics, but the connection between them seems as strong as ever.
And I think, as we, we do have connectors between, F&O and Business Central with Power Apps, but I think we need to bring those to the next level. And I'm sure Microsoft's going to do that in 2024. But what I found really interesting is in the partner and the MVP world, where, I'm seeing a lot of my modern workplace MVPs and partners really starting to work with Power Platform, Power Apps, which kind of brings them over into our Dataverse world and into a Dynamics world, which is probably good news for Microsoft because, there's probably 10 times as many as these, modern workplace type cloud partners as they are business application partners.
Yeah, and they bring a whole different perspective, right? I mean, they don't look at the world the way a Dynamics veteran does, which I think probably strengthens Power Platform to have more of those different approaches, sort of influencing it.
Now, Jason, we've got 2024 happening because this will be broadcasted the first week of January. So, what are we looking at for 2024? What exciting news do you think we're going to see from Microsoft and our partner ecosystem?
Yeah, I think we've touched on a couple of things. Like I think some of the important GAs and important previews that we saw in the second half of 2023 will continue into this year, and we'll get a better sense of how well Microsoft's executing on some of those and maybe responding to the marketplace. I think the Copilot story overall and the AI story and the relationship to OpenAI is a big question. How much is Microsoft going to continue to push sort of OpenAI's large language models versus trying to keep themselves sort of open and agnostic to other vendors and other places or other services where Microsoft customers want to put their data to use, especially the data they have in Azure today? I think that's a huge question for 2024 and beyond. As I think everyone who watches the news knows, OpenAI, Microsoft are getting a lot of scrutiny right now with lawsuits, with regulators. And that's just going to kind of continue and evolve in 2024. And then I think another prediction, as we touched on, the relationship between Power Platform and Dynamics is going to continue to evolve. So I know I'm looking forward to, especially on the finance and supply chain side, see, where the product teams sort of focus their energy and sort of evolve their approaches to making these products really interdependent and working between each other, much in the way that I think, Fabric will become a big part of those stories too. So, and then as I think we touched on before, we'll start to see sort of winners and losers, so to speak, in terms of what Copilot capabilities are really getting traction and which ones Microsoft customers are willing to pay for, essentially. That's one of the things we did a little bit of coverage from 2023, Microsoft executives told analysts they'll be charging for AI in all sorts of different ways based on the use cases. And as we see that pricing and licensing kind of stuff solidify, that really will be a clue into what's working.
And what I'm excited about in 2024 is the ISV community. I think the ISV community is going to continue to grow as more, let's say, third-party software vendors and say, hey, I've got to get into this Microsoft space. Things are happening over there. Things are happening with AI, with Power Platform, with the Dynamics products. They're now a $5 billion marketplace. I want to be able to sell into that marketplace. And also, I think we're going to see a lot of partners become more vertical solution providers as they start to specialize in industries, specialize in verticals, and start creating some, really fantastic applications sitting on this Microsoft cloud.
Yeah, and more partners that had traditionally been service providers, I think, have been refining and developing their IP. And I think we'll see more of those companies either evolve their approach to be sort of joint ISV and reseller of Microsoft solutions, or spinning off those products, selling them off perhaps to more dedicated ISV organizations. We'll see a whole range of different approaches there as IP evolves and the service models evolve.
Okay. Well, Jason, thanks for your time today. I'm very excited about what we've got coming up for 2024. And I'm sure we'll be back in 2024 to talk more about our predictions and see just how correct we are.
Thanks, Rick. Always fun chatting about this stuff.
Okay. Bye for now.